The truth about vaccines is pretty simple. It's common sense. What is going to happen when you inject foreign toxic chemistry into a living thing? Nothing good. It's common sense that when you add toxic things to the body, it's going to jack up the chemistry. And that is the whole purpose of the program, is to jack up our chemistry, because it makes us easier to control when we're all out of balance and our chemistry is improper, because we're only acting based off our chemistry and our conditioning. So if everybody's chemistry is jacked up on purpose through the toxic food program and the medical pharma program, you have a population that is self-limiting and easier to control. Because remember, when we're stimulated and out of balance, this perpetuates the cycles of thought, right? This is part of stimulation, which has us thinking we're somebody doing something, which has us thinking we're in control and thinking we know. So we're easier to control because we have no true common sense. Remember, true common sense exists in the center of the circle. Stand in the center of the circle and allow all things to take their course. This is no biases or attachments. To have true common sense, we have to have no biases or attachments. Because if we're still attached to something, we're just going to only follow what we're still attached to. That comes to diet too. Like, how can we be carnivore or an omnivore? This defies true common sense. If we're standing in the center of our circle with no biases or attachments, we have no claws or fangs. We have no claws or fangs, right? No animal uses weapons, tools, or fire to procure or prepare their food. This defies common sense. Why would we're supposed to eat meat? I've never seen anybody kill a cow with their bare hands and then eat it raw with their bare hands, using their fingernails. You know what I mean? They're just clawing the cow's eyes for like 3 hours trying to kill it. It doesn't make sense. It defies common sense. Animals that kill animals have claws and fangs usually, or a talon or something, you know what I mean? Some tool, natural tool, not a manufactured tool. This doesn't make sense to me if I'm standing in the center of the circle. Because we've lost our true common sense. And you can't tell anybody this because everybody thinks they know because their chemistry's messed up and they're stimulated. And when you're stimulated, you think you're somebody doing something and you think you know. And when you think you know, you're trapped in a lower limiting perspective. You're creating a bias, an attachment if you think you know, which prevents us from seeing the truth, which makes us easier to control. This is the loss of true common sense. When we think we know, there goes our common sense. Because you have to have no biases to be able to see things and be like, what makes sense? Our anatomy, it makes sense to eat fruits, right? Because these hands are for picking and peeling. We're a frugivore, like the monkeys. And what happens when we eat fruits versus compared to anything else? Our body starts detoxifying itself because fruits are the least obstructive foods in a sense, because everything in a sense is somewhat obstructive, but it's the best for us, that allows our bodies to heal while still eating it and properly hydrating and receiving higher energy. That's the fruits, because then it makes sense. They're living, they're electrical, they're hydrating. This is just common sense. And obviously, the more we take away, doing things like water fasting and dry fasting, this removes more obstructions and your body heals even faster. Basically, what we're doing to heal the body is you have to take away things that are obstructing it and blocking it and put in the least obstructive things that are going to allow it to properly heal itself. And the most hydrating things, our cells need hydration, is going to allow it to heal itself the fastest. And this can be a fruit, but it can be very difficult to change our diet. It's one of the most difficult things we can do in this program we're in. The toxic food program is extremely powerful. It's how they control a population of a planet. Not just this planet, many other planets, right? So that's how they do it, through a toxic food program. And then you add in things like pharmaceuticals, you're just pulling the strings of people's chemistry. Remember, drunk drivers, we can't blame a person for drunk driving. They're a product of their chemistry and their conditioning. And that's what they're conditioned to do when their chemistry's messed up. And they mess up the chemistry on purpose. They're pulling the strings through this toxic food and all the other, and the air and the water and everything you touch, the receipt paper, it doesn't matter what it is. They're just like, oh, let's really throw a wrench on the chemistry machine. And so the more we free ourselves from all these things that are suppressing us with all the toxicness of the world, right? Once we start taking these things away, our body starts to come back into balance. And presence is part of this. Presence and purification, they support each other. The two greatest devotions to God. Purify the human body. That's number one. But we're always working based on our chemistry and conditioning, so we can't judge ourselves for anything, if you're falling back or you're in a bad habit, because a bad habit is just simply coping with being out of balance. That's the body coping. Your chemistry and conditioning is coping. So you can never judge yourself, because you're just observing anyway. We're the observer. And a lot of times, when as a conscious beings, falling back on certain things, not even bad, just things that you're doing, being from the perspective of the observer allows us to gain a deeper understanding. So remember, all there is to do is be the observer. All there is to do is there's nothing to do. There's really nothing to do but stop thinking. And then when we're the observer, we're just taking it all in. We're allowing the divine to flow through us, and we're the highest vessel for God. So that's the name of the game. That's how we escape the program of the game. It is by being the observer. But the illusion is so powerful, it's constantly sucking us back in. That's why I have to keep making these videos. Not only for you, my friends, but for myself. I need these constant reminders how powerful the illusion is. Everything, it's going to take any chance it can get. If you give it an inch, it's going to take a mile, right? That's the saying, something like that. You give it an inch, it's going to take a mile. It doesn't matter what it is. It's going to come at you. So we have to gradually remove the aggravation and the stimulation. And how do we do that? It's based off of our chemistry and our conditioning. We're just observing ourselves doing it as we gain new conditioning. So that'll bring everything into balance. Presence and purification bring everything into balance, physical and consciously, right? Because even our purification, we're just observing it. It's happening based off our conditioning, right? And watching things like this video may impact your conditioning in a positive way. There is no positive or negative, right? Just in a way that has your conditioning moving in a different direction, which could change your chemistry if you're doing things that change your chemistry. See how it all works together? Presence and purification. So purification is so important. What we put in our bodies is so important, because that's going to impact whether or not we're easier to manipulate, and whether we get our true common sense taken from us. Right? We need to replace schools with what? This could be another video. With presence and purification centers, basically teaching peace and a calm state of being and mind, facilitating a state of peace, teaching kids from the time they were small to facilitate a state of peace, to have the correct chemistry so they're not out of control and they're not behaving insanely. That's another reason. What does all this toxicity they give us do? Good luck with your kids' behavior on top of all the toxic food system that they're pushing down our throats. They need to create chaos and stimulation as much as possible. To have us thinking we're somebody doing something, have us thinking we're in control, which keeps us in the cycles of suffering, and have us thinking we know, because there goes our common sense. Thank you for joining me, my friends. May the cosmic beloved send you peace, patience, presence, and understanding. and health. I'm God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.